Hi, it's time for another verb of the day. Today's verb is horse. Let's take a moment and look a little more closely at this verb. Now, most of the time, if you're a regular watcher, you know that I start off with some definitions, but really, the only time you're going to hear horse used as a verb is in connection to phrasal verbs. So I'll start today's video by noting that horse is going to be a regular verb. This means that if I want to make it a progressive verb, I need to drop the E on the ending before I add ing. To make past tense and participle forms of this verb, all I need to do is add the letter D, since this verb already ends in an E. Now, the base verb, horse, ends in a S sound, and S is unvoiced. This means that our ed ending is going to make a T sound. So when we say the past tense form of this verb, what you're going to hear is horsed. Horsed. Okay? Now, I've condensed some of my notes here because I really don't have a lot to share today. But I thought it might be interesting since we have talked about different animals as verbs this week. We've done duck and dog and pig. Why not include horse as well? So the most common way you'll hear horse used as a verb is with the phrasal verb horse around. Okay? And this phrasal verb can have a couple different meanings. One way people use it is to mean that someone is fooling around. They're doing something that's wasting time. They're not being productive. That might be another way you hear it used. So an example of this might be, he's been horsing around all morning and hasn't made any progress yet. Okay. We could be talking about someone at work. We could talk about someone at school, but it's that this is a present perfect continuous or present perfect progressive verb where we're describing an action that started in the past and is continuing. So horsing around could be all kinds of different things, being on your phone, maybe talking to somebody, but essentially you're not doing maybe the things you should be doing. So I can remember hearing my teachers growing up, if we were ever given group work time and people started to do things that were more play-like, you might hear the teacher say, quit horsing around. A second way this phrasal verb gets used, horse around, is to mean to play in a rather rough or rowdy manner. Okay, so an example of how you might hear this used is in the imperative. Right? So somebody might say, and I feel like this happens most commonly to children, don't horse around in there. There are too many things that could break. Now, there was a particular room in one of my grandparents, my maternal grandparents' home, that had kind of their nicest things. And my brother and I were always told, like, you don't play in this room, right? Because sometimes we would at least start arguing or pushing or just being kind of rough in our play, right? And so you didn't do that in this particular room. So if we ever started, we would certainly hear this imperative from our mother. Don't horse around in there. Okay. Now, we're not going to do other verb tense practice. This is sort of a bonus video for the week. Normally I just do 3, but we're going to have 4 verbs again, since they're connected to animals. So we'll move on and talk about words that are related to our verb horse. And naturally, the first word we're going to talk about is the noun form of this word. And I've included a picture here to help you make a connection. The most common way you hear horse used as a noun is to refer to that large mammal that has solid hoofs, has a flowing mane and tail. It can be used to ride, to race, to carry or pull loads. So an example of this might be, she's been riding horses since she was 5. Now, a second way you might hear horse used is in connection to many different objects. So generally these are frames that have legs and they're used to support something. An example of that might be put the board on the sawhorse, right? So these are frames that are specifically designed for people to be able to cut things safely when they're building or making things. Another related word I thought you might encounter is the noun horsepower. Right? So this is a unit of power where we many times measure cars, motorcycles, other different types of vehicles, but their ability to move 550 foot-pounds per second. So very technical there, but sometimes as you're being sold different vehicles, you might hear about its horsepower, right? The bigger that is, the more exciting it is to some people. Usually it's going to relate to a car's ability to move really, really fast. An example of this might be the average horsepower is about 180 for passenger vehicles. Right? One last thing for us to discuss in our video today, and that is the phrase straight from the horse's mouth. What this means is from the original source. An example of this in a sentence might be, you need to hear this straight from the horse's mouth. So maybe there's a new rule, a new policy within your organization, and it's sort of being gossiped about. People are repeating, and as information passes person to person, certain things get left out or certain details maybe change. Here, we're saying we need to go back to that original source and find out that particular information. Thanks so much for watching today's video. I hope you've enjoyed this week's verbs. Have a great day.